Queen Elizabeth II passed away yesterday after a long life spanning 96 years and 140 days, during which she dutifully occupied the throne. She was a much cherished and loved monarch who devoted her life to the duties and responsibilities of her role. I have to say I've liked and appreciated Queen Elizabeth because in the end her fate was to be a public figure and therefore in some sense a leader, an influencer. And in an era where so many public figures and leaders behave in irresponsible and even abhorrent ways, she was always a contrasting example of decency, responsibility, and courtesy. Even if you have qualms about there being a monarchy at all, since by this century their role is almost all ceremonial, Elizabeth seemed a true master of her role, and I think she deserves admiration for a long life well lived. Now, as to her natal chart, it provides us with really good information both about her life and character, as well as the date and even the time of her passing. Critical to understanding her character is the place of Saturn, elevated and very near the midheaven. That midheaven crossed over Saturn 5 minutes before her birth, thereby imprinting her personality with those qualities of duty and responsibility, but she was also known for her sense of humor, for which I would point to a Jupiter-Mars conjunction in Aquarius and a fifth sign Sun in Taurus, which being in the playhouse is always attuned to the funny side of things. The Aquarius energy also tells you she was good with the people, her subjects, probably also because with Saturn in the 11th sign, which is also the place of the people, she understood she needed to respect them. In short, a person who was, to my mind, a kind of master of boundaries, even though she was a queen. As to the date and time of her passing, the astrological synchronicities are quite remarkable. Astrology is, in a very real sense, the art of meaningful coincidence, and this chart definitely reflects current timings in an almost spooky way. In the transits, notice the key role of Saturn, which has been transiting in Aquarius during 2021 and 2022, but this year in degrees that put it near her second 8th house axis, and of course with the 8th being the house of death. In these degrees, it is triggering the T-square that it forms at birth, with Neptune on one end and the Mars-Jupiter conjunction on the other. At 96 plus years of age, and Saturn itself being an old age planet, this is the kind of transit that can indeed point to the final transition. To that, you add transiting Neptune, which at birth is in the death sign, Leo, currently transiting in degrees, which form a 150-degree quincunx to itself. Again and again, I see this aspect in connection to health and death matters, which is unsurprising because it links the natural Aries rising zodiac wheel to Virgo and Scorpio, which are the natural health and death signs. To this we can add the coincidence that in astrological terms is never a coincidence, of the progressed moon currently at 20 degrees Aquarius, which is where both the transiting Saturn happens to be and also right near her natal Aquarius planets. And to cap it all off with another super striking synchronicity, the transiting moon yesterday at the time of her death was also at 20 degrees Aquarius. And of course, notice that her moon at birth is resident in Leo, the 8th sign, which is the sign of death. Another incredible coincidence is to see the progressed Mercury, a planet that in her natal chart is linked by rulership to her 6th sign of health, at pretty much the exact degrees of her 8th sign, the 21-degree range of Leo. Finally, since this chart has a very strong Saturn signature, Saturn will always be a key factor when something major is happening, and aside from its very obvious place in the transits, I noticed that she was born with Saturn retrograde, but by progression, it made its station and went direct at age 95, thereby signaling that a major transition was nearby. I'll finish by once again expressing my admiration for this woman. In astrology terms, she lived a long life, expressing her Saturn in a masterful way. I so wish that our public figures, leaders, people destined for influence would emulate her sense of decorum, decency, and kindness, because I'm certain the world would be a much better place.